those of you who got an invite, welcome to Nerd Prom.
No matter where in the world you are, we're all Nerds International. With the hyphen. Nerds International proudly presents.
We want to take you on a quest for knowledge. One that will take us from ancient medieval fantasy across the far reaches of space to the distant future. To many savage worlds.
So welcome to episode 82 of the Wild Eye Podcast. This is a podcast dedicated to Pinnacle Entertainment Savage Worlds, aimed at beginners and veterans alike. Wow, am I excited for this show or what? Because
couldn't sound any more excited.
Man.
Yeah. You sound like you've just got out of bed.
Yeah.
As usual, Paris Conte back with us after a short hiatus.
Hey guys.
Hi Paris.
And from that voice you just heard, that familiar voice. He's not totally back yet, but he's here today for this show. Harrison Hunt.
Hello. Yes, it just so happened that I was available this evening, and we're gonna have a good time today. A really good time.
Anyway, this show isn't about you, Harrison. It's about the two guests that we have on the show.
Hard to believe, huh?
we have Dylan Brooks and Gage Verroneau. Hi, guys.
So close. I expected you of all people to pronounce it correctly. It's Verroneau.
Verroneau.
Yes. Yes. Exactly.
Do we have an applause track that we can put in there?
No. There's a very low budget for this show, and that was 10p. Okay, it's not happening.
It's not going to happen. All right, fair.
I can give you guys a single clap. Here we go. How's that?
There's two of us.
Are you going to charge for that?
Yes, please. 10p.
Okay.
All right, so today we're going to be talking about swag, and if you don't know what it is, it's a secret. We'll just reveal it later. But because we're just going to do a little bit of news first, quickly, and then we'll jump right in.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is time for the news. The news is incoming. Prepare yourself for the news. News! And some announcements about the Nerds International Network and the Wild Eye Podcast.
So, Golden Glory, we had Giuseppe on the show a couple of years ago. He was working on a OSR style supplement for Savage Worlds that was released a long time ago, but now, excuse me, the update for Suede is out. And if you've purchased the book, you should have gotten a link to update your PDF, and now it's all Suede-ified. Pretty cool. So, go check this out. I mean, with all the people into old school, if you're looking to get the feel of dungeon crawling and all that with your Savage Worlds, don't listen to the people that tell you that you can't really do it, because Savage Worlds is not an attrition system. Just get Golden Glory 7 Deadly Dungeons.
Wait, isn't the only person saying you can't do it you?
Nope.
Sure?
I mean,
by the way, I would say that on Facebook a couple of days ago, Harrison said that you can't do Vampire the Masquerade on Savage Worlds.
I did say that, but it wasn't that. I think you can, but I also think Vampire the Masquerade is perfectly set up for Vampire the Masquerade. So that guy was a fucking idiot. Oh no, sorry, I shouldn't swear. But the point is that it's absolutely true. He was.
He might be a listener. You don't know.
Well, anyway, shout out to that guy. But the Vampire the Masquerade is a really good streamlined game, and it does what it does perfectly. But you can do it in Savage Worlds. But why would you? It's pointless.
Because it was good about 25 years ago, 30 years ago.
I know, Eric, but I only played it last month.
I will say I'm not super familiar with Golden Glory, but Shane Hensley, when I asked him I said, what would you say Savage Worlds can't do? And the one thing he said was, he's like, I don't think it really handles dungeon delving well. He's like, hold on, well, wait, hold on. I don't think it handles attrition-based dungeon delving well. So I would be interested to see how he tackled it.
The Golden Glory actually was one of the few games that I reviewed on this show that I reviewed positively. So it's cracking, really good. And I played it
That's why
once.
I didn't listen to it.
Yeah.
I only like the episodes where you guys tear things apart.
Yeah, that makes sense.
You know, we both have products that presumably they're going to talk about on this show.
Hopefully not. Oh, gosh.
Just don't let either me or Eric review it, and then you're fine.
I mean, I sent you both a free copy, in fairness.
Good stuff.
Yep, I looked at it. And it's pretty good stuff. So yeah, we're gonna take it to the edge next. We're gonna talk about swag. You know, how to publish. What is it? Is it good? Is it nice?
Can it be used as a wall insulation? All those questions and more will be answered coming up. I shouldn't drink when we do these, I don't think.
Me neither.
Why would you stop now?
Good question.
I'm pretty sure that's your brand. It's fine.
So yeah, take it to the edge. Swag. So you might be wondering why we invited Dylan and Gage. Well, it's because they've published material for swag already. They're one of the, two of the pioneers for the program. So I will start by asking you guys, what is swag?
So Savage World is this. Swag is the Savage Worlds Adventurers Guild, and it is the One Bookshelf affiliate program that Pinnacle is doing in association with DriveThruRPG.
Yeah, we finally got a community content program.
Woohoo!
Yeah.
So yeah, some people might be familiar with the DM's Guild. There's one for Cypher too. There's one for
there's the Storyteller Vault. Yeah,
there's a lot of them now. There's one for Call of Cthulhu.
Genesis just dropped Foundry. Yeah, they just released it recently, and I went over, and if we talk about this, if we want to get into talking about swag versus other community content programs, I have things to say.
Opinions.
I actually think that's probably important, but one of the things I wanted to know was how, on a basic level, does swag work? How do you get your cash money?
PayPal. There's your basic.
Yeah, I mean, slightly less basic than that. So obviously you get a percentage, right, of what it sells and stuff like this.
So basically, you put your product out there, you put your price, and 10% goes to Pinnacle, and then 30% goes to DriveThruRPG. So you walk away with 60% of your total. Something that might be confusing for new people is the way DriveThru handles paying out royalties. You have to wait 2 months before you can collect. So, like, for example, I have collected once already for mine, and I am sitting there every day seeing how many sales were on this day 2 months ago, because I just went to Gen Con. So you have to wait 2 weeks, but you get 60% of the total.
And you can, each time you do a withdrawal from it, I think there's a $2 processing fee.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be honest, all I've done with mine is sit on a pile, and it's just accumulating there, and I've been using it to buy stuff from DriveThruRPG.
I was going to say that's also an interesting point. If you use it to buy from DriveThruRPG, you get to slip around that $2 processing fee.
Yeah.
It goes right
and
to
you
your
can
wallet.
buy stock art for your next product that you're working on, which is what I've been doing with it.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat.
So let's back up a little bit now, because who can publish on swag?
Everyone.
Anybody. There are not any publisher restrictions. I think Aces can use it. I can't imagine why they would, but they have the option.
Aces have used it.
Here's a better question.
I think
Here's a better question. Who should publish using swag?
Anyone who wants to create Savage Worlds content who is not already or in the process of becoming an ace.
Okay.
People with good ideas.
There you go. That's more like it.
I like that. So, let's start with your. Well, we've already started, but Dylan, what have you published for Swag so far?
So I published a product called Summoner's Circle, which is an expansion on the Summon Ally power to figure out how to make allies that aren't the ones that are in the book. So you can build anything from a little sneaky scout thing to I have giant tree monsters and titans and things like that if you go all the way up to the highest levels of it. So it's about summon ally, and then I've got a bunch of sample allies as well as summoners and some edges and stuff like that,
as well as how you built them out, which is one of the coolest things I think in your thing, is that you have point cost and rationale behind, so people can take what you did and keep going.
Yeah, so that's sort of the whole function. Is there are samples in there if you want, but the big thing is that it's got like a system for building summon allies.
Very nice.
Yeah, when I looked at it, what I thought was that it reminded me of a Richard Woolcock product, where he really goes behind the design of everything and breaks it down for you so that you can it's basically reverse engineered the summon ally power, where in the book you get only, like you said, a couple examples, but maybe your setting doesn't really use the same theme, and then you want more like familiars type of creatures, or maybe more robots, or maybe you want spirits. You can really go all out. It breaks it down just like the positive and negative abilities.
Yeah, the start of the system was this was back when they were releasing Suede, and they were sort of doing all of the different versions that they put out. I don't know, you guys, I'm sure, were following that as everything changed. But in Deluxe, the summon ally power was just like 3 examples at each rank or something like that, and didn't really give you any guidelines. And then in Suede, as it was updating, they changed their minds a lot. Like at one point, it was strictly size based, and that didn't really work, in my opinion, very well. But so. I started trying to figure out, like, okay, how powerful are these creatures? What is the system that they're doing here? So that's sort of where it started.
Very cool. I like what I've seen so far. So well done.
Sounds epic.
What about you, Gage?
I did a little thing called a Savage Guide to Dinosaurs, which has, I think, 17. I'm not going to lie. I don't remember the exact number. It's close to 17. Fully statted dinosaurs. I don't explain any of my logic, so you can take it or leave it. As well as a unique one sheet just for the book called Dino World that is very Jurassic Park inspired. Just because one of the things I hate is when you buy a product that you get really, really excited about and then look at your game and go, but what do I do with it? So I kind of give everyone a stock adventure with 6 pre-gens that you can just run and go. Yep.
Yeah, I think Gary played in that game, right? That one sheet with you.
Gary did play in that game. He was part of the mercenary twins that show up in that, which are Hopper and Cricket Jones, the Jones twins. And it was super fun. He was playing, crazy enough, he was playing the reckless one that shoots first and asks questions later.
He was incredibly well behaved. I watched that entire thing. And I was even egging him on in the background to see if I could get him to just be him. And he didn't do it. I was so disappointed.
Gary is a disappointingly respectful player, believe it or not.
But yeah, that was actually a lot of fun. There was stuff in that I had no way of predicting was going to happen. But it really kind of, I think, was a good example of how you can run it, not how you have to run it.
It's a sign of a good adventure when it can go off the rails in ways the author didn't expect.
Yeah. There's a note at the beginning of the adventure. So GMs, feel free to hide this from your players. But there's a note at the beginning of the adventure that says your benefactor, the one hiring you for this job, money is not a problem. So they can have whatever they want. And normally I play with, I would say, new to middling Savage Worlds players. I'm big on evangelizing the hobby and trying to get as many converts as I can. So it had been a while since I had sat down with some really experienced Savage Worlds people, and Bobby, who runs GM's table, was like, cool, I want stun grenades, I want this, I want that. I'm like, should we get a flamethrower? Guys, let's get a flamethrower. And I was like, all right, it's a one shot, burn it.
So sort of going back to what Harrison kind of alluded to, is like who should publish on Swag. So was this like homebrew stuff that started with you guys and you went, oh, this is like it gained a life of its own, and you thought, I can package this up and other people would be interested? Or what was the impetus to you to go, you know what, I want to share this with other people?
Well, for me, I had been sort of figuring it out for my home campaign, and then had enough of a system that I went, okay, well, I could sell this. You know, I was watching the development of Swag as they sort of announced it and all that, and I had wanted to start publishing stuff, so that helped a lot. That gave me an opportunity to get my foot in the door, sort of, in a way that, like, the DMs Guild has a ton of stuff already up there, so it's tough to get noticed.
Yeah, there was definitely, I think, a lot of, similar for me. There was definitely a feeling when Swag was announced and coming out that if you wanted this moment, if you really wanted to capture it, to be one of like the first 5 or 10 people on there, you were going to get a lot of individualized attention. Savage Guide to Dinosaurs started off as a fan hack that I was working on to do a tabletop version of Ark Survival Evolved, if you're familiar with the video game. As I was going through and doing all this work, I realized I could break it out into two books and have no serial numbers and sell it. So I'm about to start playtesting a similar to if anyone's familiar with Bosun. I'm sorry, I'm never going to remember people's real names. Who had the expanded wealth system? It's going to be an expanded crafting system, also off of the wealth die mechanic.
I guess where I'm as a guy who creates a lot of content myself for my own games, but I just don't know whether it's wanted by other people or whether it's applicable to other gamers. So when you've got this content and you think, you know, this is it, this is cool, I'm going to publish this, why not go the next stage to ACE or try and apply for an age license? Why stop at Swag? Or does Swag offer something that is easier for the creator without having to jump through all the hoops? Maybe what for you guys, what was it that went, no, this is it, this is the perfect fit for me?
Well, I had 2 reasons. One was I thought it was a lot harder to become an ace. From conversations with aces and with people at Pinnacle, I'm realizing now it's a little easier. The second one is part of, at least when you're initially applying to be an ace, you have to have something to show, and it has to be something that's different enough from what's going on. And I didn't have a full setting. I had a bestiary with a 1-sheet adventure that I thought people might like, and I definitely wouldn't have gotten approved for Ace for it because there was Dinosaur Protocol about to come out, which I didn't know when I started. Dinosaur Protocol came out a week before me. Jonathan, who wrote the book, has been nothing but kind and gracious. Like, I put the thing out, and he was like, "Hey, man, I don't have a bestiary yet. How about I go on? Do you mind if I go on your thing and say, hey, this works as the unofficial bestiary?" And he's just super kind and gracious. But so those 2 things were going on. I think it's faster and easier to go Swag because there's no stopping point. Like when you email something off, I don't know if you guys are this way. I know a lot of creatives are. I am this way. If I were to send an email off to Peg, about being an ace, I would then sit there and go, well, it doesn't make sense to start writing until I even know if I can do it. You know what I mean? And then it's like, they email me back, cool, I can start writing. You know what? I have another question. Let me send that off. And I might as well just wait till that email comes back. There's really no excuse with Swag because you just are doing your own thing in a vacuum.
Well, I know they used to have a similar policy when it came to licensees, and this is probably going to sound really dumb and stupid, and you might have addressed it on the show already. But aces and swagites, what's kind of the difference? Like, is aces the new word for licensee? Is that what it is?
Yes.
Yes,
Oh,
ACE
got
is the
you,
new
yeah.
term for licensing.
Yeah, because I remember back in the day, like that was always their policy. It had to be something significantly different to what they already had, which is why obviously we've got so many licensees doing Wild West settings. You know, take a look at yourself, Pinnacle. But the point is that I remember that same kind of situation came up with Saga of the Goblin Horde, which is why it was also an unofficial product, like a fan product as opposed to a licensee, because Darkhold already existed. So yeah, no, I just wondered, but yeah, maybe I'm an idiot, but I've been out of the loop for a little while.
Well, the process for becoming an ace, by my understanding, and Eric, I'm sure you can speak to this a little more, but you have to have something that's already in trade dress and it has to be something that they like the look of
more of a type of pitch type thing.
Yeah, you have to give them sort of a pitch product and something that's already professional looking and doesn't sort of embarrass their standards.
So I don't know if you guys know, but do Peg, I know obviously they'll review anything that wants to become an ace, but do they review your swag products or anything like this?
I don't think so. If I had to guess, just because I know they're very busy, but they're usually pretty aware, I have a feeling they're going to let it ride until someone crosses a line. Mm-hmm. And then if somebody says, hey, you guys should look at this, I have a feeling that they will probably come in quickly and get rid of that product. But for now, it's been pretty open season.
I want to try and
from Pinnacle.
No, go on, mate.
Nobody from Pinnacle has discussed anything with me in terms of the stuff that I've put out.
Right. But you're saying it's kind of they keep a distant eye on it, and then maybe if something happens, they'll be like, right, we're pulling that.
I have a feeling that if you go too hardcore, past the PG-13 guideline, obviously if you violate anyone's intellectual property rights, I have a feeling they'll come down pretty hard.
Oh, yeah.
But aside from that, I think they kind of want this to be a creator's kind of place. Like it's very much of the community for the community, and they've done a lot to protect that.
Well, I suppose
at least going
Savage
forward.
Worlds, like a big part of what makes it so fun and enjoyable is the community, right? I mean, and I think they're just encouraging that. But I think what I'm hearing from you is that my new adventure, The Adventures of Kevin Spacey, isn't going to be one that's kept up for a long time after I've published it.
That would be my intention. That would be my guess. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a shame. That's a real shame.
But just change the guy's name. You'll be fine.
All right, I'll put down Jimmy Savile.
Oh, why don't you go with Clinton Mercury?
Yeah, there we go. That'll do.
No, I mean, I've been having that conversation with Richard Woolcock a little bit, where I believe that swag publishers have a little bit more leeway when it comes to what they can publish or not, in the sense that aces have to go through an approval process, and once that is done, they're kind of free to release whatever they want. I don't think anybody has really crossed the line like Gage was talking about with PG-13 and stuff like that, but swag publishers can go just straight up and maybe push the limits a little bit more. And you don't, I mean, sure, you can lose your license to publish on swag, I would imagine, but I think there's a bit more freedom there. Not much, but still there.
The impression that I have is that there's a little more freedom with mechanical adjustments to the system that aces don't have. Like, I don't want to speak too much to Richard Woolcock's situation, but my understanding is that part of the reason he's not an ace is because he had a lot of mechanical changes to the system that he had published that they wanted him to either pull that or
Actually, I think the situation was kind of different, but I don't know if it's something he wants us to mention on air, but I think it was different. I'll tell you when we finish the podcast.
Fair enough.
No, but that's fair in the sense that I think Pinnacle, one of the reasons why they have swag on there is, I mean, sure, before you could do it with the fan license, which is basically just the same, but you can't make any money profit, but it's a way for them to let people stretch the the liberty you have with the mechanics, like Dylan said, where they don't really appreciate changing the mechanics at their core. But swag publishers are allowed to do, because like I said, Dylan's Summoner Circle, I mean, it's pretty close to what Richard did with a lot of other stuff that was kind of shunned by Pinnacle, but it's completely acceptable on swag, and I think that benefits the community.
And I think I personally I'm on the side of, and I know I have a tendency to be a fanboy, so feel free to smack me down. I remember when we were going through the Kickstarter, Harrison, you and I got into it at one point, and I apologized to you because I have a tendency to be a fanboy about stuff I love, and I love Savage Worlds, I love Pinnacle. Swag feels like something they're doing for us. I don't know about you, but like I have one of the top sellers. They've made maybe $10 on my product. They're not making a ton of money.
I do agree that it quite clearly seems like it's for you guys. It's like now the fan license you can make money off of. The only reason I've been vocal about Pinnacle and their shortcomings in the past is because I want it to be the best it can be. I love the game, and I love it so much that I want it to be the best it can be. And now this, to me, seems like a really good window and encouragement for people to make good stuff. And it's the good stuff that will rise to the top, and, you know, whatever. There's obviously going to be a lot of guff coming out in the next few months. But personally, I think it's great, and I completely agree with you. But it's just, I'm looking forward to the guff. I'm looking forward to that. That's going to give us a lot of content, I think.
Well, we have a joke. So Dylan and I know Eric, you're in there. I don't know if you guys, Parasite Harrison, I don't know if you guys are in there. We're in the unofficial Savage Worlds Discord. And so the joke is, if you don't know whether or not you should get a swag product, go see if the guy who wrote it is in the Discord. Because of the top 10 selling things that look the greatest, that everyone loves and raves, every single one of us, I think, is in that Discord. Woolcock's in there. You have Manuel's in there. I'm going to call him Dr. Boson because I always forget his real name.
It's Don.
I don't care. It's Dr. Boson to me. I'm going to promptly forget his real name again.
Donovan Bailey.
It's the unofficial Savage Worlds Discord. And I think there's only, I forget, there's like, it's weird. I don't know if you have an invite link that you can throw in the show notes.
I do.
You do? Okay. It's very, very cool. And I don't know if you did it, Dylan, but like when I was prepping my thing, I threw it out there, stuff like Manuel came in and literally just ripped it apart for me, when like in a good way. Like he went in and he was like, this doesn't make sense. Why are you doing left to line? It should be justified, or it doesn't look like a real product. Like, and just gave me a ton of feedback. And you're in there with everyone else who's also doing this. And it's just this amazing kind of like pool of creativity. But the joke has become, when you're talking about the good and the bad on there, is just check and see if the author's in the Discord. It'll save you time.
Well,
so you could probably ask the author about it on the Discord.
It's funny that you say that. I actually think that's good advice for anyone that's about to publish a product. And I'm really sorry I keep interrupting. I've had a few drinks, listeners. Anyway, the point is I think if you have a product that's about to come out, send it to Manuel Sams. He's like he's like a machine.
100%.
He'll tear it apart, but with the best intentions.
In a good way, yeah.
He's a good editor.
I mean, I spent months once working on a product that I intended to release, and then he took one look at it and was just like, he tore it apart so thoroughly that I never bothered carrying on with it.
Oh,
that may not be a good example. That's sad.
No, but he is so helpful. But anyway, sorry, carry on.
He is. I don't know if he's going to be enthusiastic about you volunteering his labor, but you know.
Come to the Discord. He's always there.
That's
He's
true.
always active.
Yeah, he loves the game, man. So have you guys got any plans for like future stuff you're going to make? I know, Gage, you said you were making the other supplement that goes along with that one, but how about you, Dylan?
I do. I have a whole file full of like, hey, here are things that I might publish.
Nice. Give me the ideas so I can steal them.
Well, the next one that I'm working on is about downtime. That's the sort of the next thing that I plan on doing. Is a variety of like, here's things you can do in between adventures, like make contacts or build stuff or, you know, build a business, things like that.
Nice.
That's the sort of the next one that I have.
And I'll pitch my the next one that I'm actually really passionate about, because I have been dragging my butt writing it, and I feel like if I put it up here and then people hear me say it, then maybe I'll actually have to do it. But I'm working on a concept called 3-session stories, and what it is about 4 pages of mini setting. It's a 3 plot point campaign and 2 one sheets and pre-gens. The idea being that you can either throw this into an existing game if it fits to run as a B storyline that's all connected and works together, or if you need an alt game for missing players, or if you just want to run short-term games because people are doing 6-session campaigns now. So that's something I'm working on as well.
I so need that.
That's a great idea, man.
I just have to write it.
So just listening about the projects that you're want to put out and what I've seen. So as a consumer, do I go to Swag if I'm looking for a new campaign setting?
Not right now.
Something as detailed as what I'd find in Ace, or is it just like maybe modified rules or some tables? What is it that I'm going to find when I go to Swag, you think?
You're going to find a couple of things. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
For the most part, what I've seen on there are short adventures, pre-gens, and rules modifications. I have not seen anything terribly long. I think my product might be the longest and most expensive thing on there, and it's like 40 pages.
I would agree with that. I think that there's the first thing that ever came out on Swag was, I think, a one sheet, or not a one sheet, but it was a one-shot adventure. It was much bigger than that, an unexpected wedding. Shortly after that, like the big ones that we saw were Expanded Well System, Distant Journeys, which is manuals, and so we started seeing this trend in breaking out mechanics. I personally have the theory from doing my own, which is mechanics driven, and now working on one that's more story driven. It's a lot easier to write mechanics. I'm sorry to break anyone's heart out there who's a mechanics guy, but it is a lot easier, and you know if it works at the end. If you write adventures, especially like this is the thing I've been running into playtesting one of these 3-session stories that I have coming up. You don't necessarily know how it works. Writing adventures is weird, guys. I don't know if you know this, but I think you'll see some of that coming forward. I know part of what I intend to do, peek behind the curtain with these 3-session stories, is I'm testing settings. So the idea is that I can get these out in a couple months, and they're only going to be about 25 pages by the time they're done. And I can get them out there for like $3 a piece. And then if I start seeing the fandom really gravitating towards one, I can then go to apply for an A status to make that a full book. One of the things that's interesting about Swag versus other community content programs is you own your IP. And this seems like a little thing, but this is so big because this means that you could go out there and just use Swag, use the database of Swag, that everyone is going there, the attention that Pinnacle has garnered over years and years of running Savage Worlds, and you could put one-sheet adventures in a setting and then go on your own publisher page and do a system neutral setting book. And you could just put that out as your own thing, and Pinnacle doesn't get a dime because that's your intellectual property. You can't do that with is it the DM's Vault or whatever?
DM's
Guild. You can't do that with the DM's Guild. Wizards of the Coast owns your intellectual property. It's the way it is with most of them. It's the way it is with Genesis Foundry, because I double-checked the moment I saw that they were released.
Oh, did you?
Yep. So they also own your IP. Any original stuff you make up, they own it.
So that's another weird thing about the difference between DM's Guild and Swag, is that DM's Guild actually restricts your setting publication materials. So you can't publish outside of their, like if you're writing setting material, it has to be one of their settings that they've added to DM's Guild. It has to be like, I think it's just Forgotten Realms and Eberron right now.
Yeah, I believe so.
But you can't post your own setting on DM's Guild. It's got to be one of their settings, and it becomes their property.
It's the opposite with Swag, right? You can't publish for any of the Pinnacle settings.
Yeah, exactly. Which I think one or two aces have actually said that you can publish on their settings, but that's definitely something that they allow. That's an exception to the rule.
I suppose you could make like nondescript Weird West setting adventure.
That's already happened.
Oh, really? Where they go?
Isn't Chad's adventure with the I forget what it's like called. It's like Essence something. I think it's set to be setting neutral, but the way I read it when I looked at it, it definitely seemed to be a traveling salesman in the West to me. I might be out of bounds saying that though.
Yeah, I don't know how they're gonna police that. I don't know to what extent they're gonna like worry about how closely you're filing off the serial numbers for that sort of thing.
And yeah, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that as far as percentage of the royalties, Swag is probably the best program out there, because I know we've looked with Just Insert Imagination and publishing for Cypher, and basically with Drive-Thru taking 35%, well, 35 for us. We're left with less than 50% of the profits because they take 20%.
With Swag, it's 60 to you, 10 to Pinnacle, 30 to One Bookshelf.
Yeah. But you're limited, obviously, because it's an exclusively drive-through program.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, there is one benefit to DM's Guild and some of the other ones that Pinnacle has done a little for, but not nearly as much as some of the other ones, which is art resources. Mm-hmm. When you're putting out, I mean, and I'm sure you know this, Eric, when you're putting out your own book, a good chunk of your budget is going to be art. And Pinnacle has released a pretty small amount of art in comparison to a program like the DM's Guild. I think they released basically the monsters from Suede is the art that they've released for.
And deluxe.
Oh, are there deluxe monsters in there too? Okay.
There are, yeah. The old ones with the little red and gold circle around them from the old bestiary. Yeah, that's definitely that's definitely a part of it. I used all public domain art for mine. So if there's any image you like on A Savage Guide to Dinosaurs, feel free to go find it like I did and use it in your own book.
Whereas I bought all mine off of Drive-Thru RPG for the most part.
Publishing is more than just writing something. There's a lot more to it. So, and because you guys are just coming out of nowhere, that's probably your first couple products. You don't have a mega corporation to back up and give you money to do your stuff. So you're having to find new ways, be resourceful to publish your stuff. So what kind of skills, what kind of programs do you need to be able to publish something?
So for myself, I started out, one of the reasons that I used Swag was to teach myself desktop publishing. And so I started out with Scribus, which I think is sort of the entry point product if you don't have the resources to invest in something a little fancier. Scribus is a desktop.
What does that do?
It's a desktop publishing program, so it lets you do all the layout and all of the what I did was wrote my text in Word or whatever, and then move that into Scribus for layout and art.
Was that a difficult process to get used to, or was it?
It was, because I was teaching myself the process.
Right.
It's not the most intuitive program in the world, and I think if you already know how to do desktop publishing, I would probably not choose Scribus. But if you're starting out, I think it's a good way to start.
Well, I know that Richard Woolcock still uses it, and his stuff looks pretty decent. But I think it's like years and years and years of experience. Do you know what I mean?
You also have to have a mind like Richard. I'm sorry. I always love having Savage Worlds conversations, and then people go, well, Woolcock does this. It's like, have you paid attention to anything that guy's written? He breaks everything apart and puts it back together in his head. And sometimes when he talks, I'm like, I can't do that, dude.
He's a genius, but what I'm saying is to make stuff easier, if you're publishing your own stuff, be a genius.
Exactly.
It's true.
It helps.
That's a good first step.
But
if you could try, just be better.
How long was it between, say, finishing the writing and finishing the layout? Just because obviously a lot of people are going to want to do this, and as Eric said, like the post-writing stuff can take forever. So how long was it between like writing and layout and all of that stuff before it got published?
I mean, mine was really long for a first product, so it was several weeks at least, probably 6 weeks. But that was teaching myself Scribus as well as laying out a 40-page product.
I think that's impressive, honestly.
Mine was a week, but I used
show off.
I used inferior software that let me cut a lot of corners and didn't bite me in the butt until like right at the end when I was like, oh, I just need to move this. Oh, everything's gone. Cool.
Oh, that's super. So to get back to software choices, as far as I see it, there are kind of three strong competitors right now. You can go Scribus for the free version. There's one that just came out that's called Affinity, that is sort of a mid-tier product. It's single purchase, $50 US, and from all of the graphic designers that I've talked to, it's quite good software. And then if you have the money for it, you can use what professionals use, which is InDesign, part of the Adobe suite, which is the pricey version.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, any listeners that need a copy of InDesign that maybe want to go less legal routes, don't hit me up, but wink wink, if you get what I'm saying.
You're gonna get so many emails, dude. Like,
look, people know how to torrent stuff. Come on, but I'll teach you if you don't know. But I won't, because that's illegal, and I definitely won't. That was a joke. That was all for parody purposes, and it was a joke. So shut up, FBI.
No, I tend to move to InDesign or Affinity. Affinity looks really promising. I did my first one with Lucid Press, and I do not recommend it.
What about if I use Word and then I just export as a PDF?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Technically possible.
Let me just say, I'm very much like a nice. I try to be a nice player. People have done that, and you can tell. That's all I'll say about that.
Period. End of sentence.
I will say this though: the Harry Potter RPG is called Harry Potter and the Tabletop Role-Playing Game. Was literally, it quite clearly was that, and it's a really good game. But I think it's probably hurt its popularity, so don't do that.
Sure. I mean,
Well,
that's always a concern in terms of like putting something out there. You can, because they're different skills. You can be a good game writer, you can be a good graphics designer, and you can be someone who can make art, but it's unlikely that you're going to be all three. Mm-hmm. And you can publish something that looks terrible, but is, if you actually read it, quite good.
Yeah.
Well, the way I look at it is I think publishers are a lot like GMs. As a GM, you have to learn different skills.
Sure.
You have to learn to make maps. You have to learn to make props, or you can go really far with it. And publishers is kind of the same thing. So, we touched on layout, which is probably, I think, the most important part. But what about artwork? Because everybody wants to look at pictures, right? So yeah, I know that artwork is really, really, really expensive. If you want to get started in the industry, don't be a writer, be an artist
or a layout. I was actually just going to say this. I was talking to someone. I was talking to Shar about this. I was like, you have years and years of professional layout experience. Go find a friend who's an artist, and then go find schmuck writers, because we're idiots, and then just say,
writing is cheap.
Yeah, I'll give you a penny a word. Dance monkey dance, and the writers will do it because we're stupid. And like, you guys have the marketable skills. You guys actually have value that you bring to it. You guys could do all your own layout and art and walk away just reaping it in.
Cheap artwork. Where do you get them? Where do you get it from? How does that work?
Public domain. Sorry, go ahead, Dylan. Dylan, you did it more.
That works. I used I think there's a public domain dinosaur in my book too. So hey, I'm right there with you.
We recently put out a product on my other podcast, but we put out a product where we used a lot of public domain artwork. So talk about how
we're not asking you, Harrison.
I was about to ask them a question, Eric. So shut up. Right. So and what I noticed was that it was really difficult to try and find the right stuff. So how do you guys go about that, keeping like a consistent feel to the artwork and getting the right ones?
Well, what I did for the most part was look for an artist that I liked the look of that had a lot of stock art on Drive-Thru-RPG. Like if you go through my book, a good 2/3 of it is from the same person.
Right.
A guy by the name of J.E. Shields, who does stock art on Drive-Thru-RPG.
Good stuff.
Yeah, I've heard of his stuff. It's really good.
It was cheap and it was nice. I mean, it was perfect for what I wanted. Now I have the proceeds from the product that I already sold, so I can actually like get nicer art. I can do color for the next one rather than all black and white or something like that.
Yeah, and in terms of public domain, it's a lot of hunting. And I'm not entirely. There are two dinosaur images in A Savage Guide to Dinosaurs that still to this day bother me, and I try not to look at that. And it's the Compy. If you look at him, part of his tail is cut off because it just
don't tell people this, otherwise they will notice.
Yeah.
Nope.
Don't
and the
point out the
Triceratops.
flaws,
No, it's fine. I don't mind. But there's just two images that just came out rough. For me, luckily, it was like at the end of the day, for me, price mattered. I'm a first time product from an unknown author, and I was using stock art. So it's like that's part of the reason that a Savage Guide to Dinosaurs is $1. I think that if I was releasing it for $5 or $3 or a higher price tier, I probably wouldn't have felt comfortable releasing it the way it with those issues, which is why, Dylan put in, again, 6 weeks of work and bought all this beautiful stock art. And he has one of the highest selling in its price point for sure. But I think you're the only thing in that price point.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think $4 might be the most expensive product on Swag still. There might be a $5 thing.
Well, that was going to be my next question, because obviously there's obviously a very good reason you charged a dollar for it. I was going to say a pound then, Gage. But how do you two go about pricing a product? Because obviously it takes weeks and weeks of work. It is genuinely hard work and admirable too. But how do you go about pricing it, and what makes you come up with those prices?
The simple solution that I have is ask Richard Woolcock.
I was going to say the same thing.
That was my solution.
Yeah, he has a blog post about the average price per page on DriveThruRPG. I think I did that and I went lower because I wanted people to buy it.
Yeah. So that's two people now that are going to get loads of DMs. So Manuel and Richard. Sorry guys,
right.
But it's happening.
And they're both in the Discord.
Right. That's the real key. The whole key here is go to the Discord if you're interested in publishing in Swag.
Agreed.
Fantastic.
I don't even get a kickback.
No one gets a kickback. It's Discord. It's hard to monetize.
Well, it's time we started.
We keep talking about Richard, but recently he released a blog post about what we're talking about, really breaking it down. What's the difference between ACE, fan license, or the Swag license? So we're going to put a link in the show notes for that too, so you guys can look at it, break it down. I think the only thing Richard said that he didn't really mention in the blog post was about the 10% versus 20% royalties.
Right.
That made the program appealing to some writers, I think.
Yeah. So
it's a good article, and I agree with like 90% of it.
But I know it sounds kind of silly that you guys, said ask Richard Woolcock, but I think it's good to maybe, not just him, but like you said, people could join the Discord and reach out to other people who have done it for a little while, so you can get some decent advice. I think that's really important when publishing your first anything, really.
Oh, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
So for myself, I think I just did the math before I came on because I knew you guys were going to ask that. And my product ends up at about 11 cents per page.
Right.
Which is quite a bit lower than his recommendation. I think he recommended 15 to 20.
Right.
I honestly just didn't think that it would sell if it was any more expensive than what I put it at. Just because I don't know yet what the market will handle.
Yeah, and you want it to be bang for your buck.
Well, and there's also the element of so the person who has the I believe the highest selling product in Swag is, no surprise, Richard Woolcock, I think. Well, he's Electrum. I don't know if anyone else has hit over 250.
No, that's true. But it's,
But I think it's him. If it's not him, I know he skyrocketed past my sales after my product had been out for 2 months. He did it in 3 days.
Right.
But one of the reasons that Richard has that ability to do that is, one, he's a genius. It helps, like we said before. But he also has a name because he's been putting out stuff for Savage Worlds, and he puts out some of the best stuff.
Yeah.
So part of the putting out a product for $1, it wasn't about the time and money that I had put out there. It's that, I think mine has sold 170 something copies. That means 170 people had to read my name. I don't think they still know it, but had to read my name and buy that. So now then the next time something comes out, people have something to compare it to. Like, oh, I liked Gage's dinosaur book. So more than the money, it was about getting people to actually put that on their computer so that the next time I do something and the next time they look at it. And also just I do a podcast too. So I know for a fact that I've gotten new listeners since releasing a product.
So is that that a cautionary tale as well? So if you're a budding writer and you think, I want to put something on Swag, and you don't maybe get some advice and you just start throwing stuff on there, are you in danger of maybe muddying your name in terms of future products then? Because there's always a learning process to writing.
Sure.
And as you go along, you get better and you get feedback. So would you, as authors on Swag, would you recommend that be your first point? Like, you write something, happy days, chuck it on Swag, see what happens? Or would you caution budding writers to go through another process first?
I'd say go Swag.
Really? Okay.
Cool. I would. I'd definitely get feedback. Definitely.
Yeah.
So the fun thing is I did not send my original book to Manuel. Manuel bought it and then gave me feedback. So I think you can still go in there and see version 7 and version 8, because I, for the life of me, cannot figure out how to remove that old PDF. Maybe someone can show me. And you can actually see the pre and post manual version of A Savage Guide to Dinosaurs. But I don't think that, well, let's put it this way. I think some people have unrealistic expectations for what Swag is. I think people who are looking at Swag as what it is, which is a community content program, are probably going to understand that it's your first time writing. I think maybe don't put your first piece of writing up there for $20, because I know for myself, this is part of why I priced at $1, is if I spent $20 on your thing and I didn't like it, I will be very mad.
Yeah.
If I spent $1 on your thing and I didn't like it, I spent $1 on your thing and I didn't like it.
I think there's some benefit to making sure that you have some chops, like in terms of design, before you release something on Swag. So, for example, what I did was I had released a couple of fan conversions out into the community, and they never got a ton of attention, but I think the design was pretty solid before I released anything on Swag.
So
you have a conversion for a setting that I won't mention because of intellectual property rights, but a popular post-apocalyptic. Well, I know I've used. I think it's yours. The popular post-apocalyptic. There's radiation.
Yes. Plug. SteelDraco.wordpress.com.
Banging. Everyone check that out.
As a publishing, you guys have spoken a lot about design, and for those budding writers out there that have no idea what you're talking about when it comes to, or we have a vague idea. So I'm assuming you're talking about when you look at a book or the layout of a book, and it's appealing to look at. So what because this isn't a design podcast.
Sure.
What are the base guides that someone who's looking to publish on Swag should be looking at before they put it up there?
You should be out there Googling. I'm sorry. Like I'm not going to tell you anything in a 30-second thing on an audio medium. Again, Woolcock has multiple great blog posts about layout design. You can find tons of layout artists who have put stuff out there. I found one recently, which is like how to spread out art to use the least amount of art to be pleasing to the eye, which I wish I knew the link off the top of my head. I would spew it out there. You can buy books on layout and design, but even if you just go out there and look at what some really good solid layout artists are telling you, you can do that. And don't tell her I said this, but if you join the Savage Worlds Discord, Shar is there and she cannot resist giving feedback. So if you put your page up, she will tell you what is off.
Okay.
We're giving a lot of other people's labor away here.
Well, I mean, it's the Discord, so they don't have to give it away. We're just saying, at least as of right now, that Discord is a glut of just like you pretty much if you name someone you like, so many of them are there.
Cool.
Yeah, layout is probably, I would think, well, besides from drawing, is probably the most difficult skill to master.
I agree.
I'm really impressed with you guys tackling that on by yourself. I haven't done it, and I'm not sure I would do it either. The nightmare and the headaches that morning my partner at Just Insert Imagination has to go through, because not only does he do it for our company, but he does it for a bunch of other games too, Robotech, and doing a bunch of other games too, and French Traveler. So I mean, it's hard work. You need to have the eye for it, I think.
And you need someone else's eyes as well. Yeah,
that's
because you spend so much time staring at it that you will just completely not realize that your page looks like garbage.
Well, I heard a really good piece of advice recently from Owen Lean, who's written for Deadlands and things like this, and he said that it's really good to give it to somebody that's not your mates as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's true.
Especially like playtesting as well, because your mates, whenever you run it for them, they're always going to be like, "Oh, it was wicked, mate. It was well good," but like more often than not, it might be garbage, and you don't know.
And they're just being nice to you. It's always tough to get actual like useful feedback from friends.
Word.
Going back to your question about design, Paris, there's rules design that you've got to learn, and then there's like the layout and the publishing design, and those are two very different skill sets, which is tough. In Swag, it's almost always the same person doing both.
So there are some templates available.
That's true,
the site, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even Pinnacle puts out what one template, but
two. There's one for InDesign and one for Microsoft Word.
And I think
but
now
they're basically the same one, right?
Yeah.
I don't know because I've never opened the InDesign one. I know that there are people have published Scribus and Affinity templates as well. So you've got options at this point. I wouldn't recommend the Word one, but that's just me.
So in those
haven't said Microsoft Publisher.
I've got a new set coming out soon on Microsoft PowerPoint. It's going to be amazing.
PowerPoint, yeah. MS Paint. So what can you expect to find in one of those templates? Is it just a background image? Is it fonts? What?
It's headers. Essentially, it'll have all of your headings that you need to do, so that when you're done, if you do it right, it should look like something Pinnacle would put out. So it'll have their banner, it'll have their different sizes and their fonts, so that you can just very quickly plug and play your text and get it out there.
It also has their legal disclaimer that you're supposed to put on there,
which fun fact, A Savage Guide to Dinosaurs doesn't have, because they never said that was part of the swag program, and I'm the only one who doesn't have it. No one has said anything yet. I hope no one says anything.
They sent out an email with with that in it, so presumably they've read it.
I feel like I'm okay, right? Yeah, they featured me in the newsletter. I think I'm cool. I just saw Jody. She did not smack me. I think I'm okay.
Yeah, to close this here.
Oh, can I say one more thing about software before we close? Sorry. Also, if you're going to go either the stock image art or the public domain, you're going to want something that allows you to edit images, whether that's cleaning up a background, or if you get really into it, you can do stuff like, surprise, surprise, Woolcock does, where he completely takes stock images and changes them so much that you can't even tell that they were the original.
You have to be careful with that, because not all stock art allows you to do that.
You definitely have to have an allowance for it, but I would recommend you definitely pick up something to let you mess with images, whether that's PowerPoint or something else. I use, Sketchbook, which is a free one for Mac users. I don't know if they have a PC one.
A good one is GIMP as well.
Yeah, GIMP is what I use.
I've tried to learn GIMP 3 times, and every time I've gone, no. So I appreciate all of you GIMP users out there. But
it's like Photoshop, but slightly more obtuse.
Yeah, I think it's also really well supported as well. There's a lot of tutorials out there for GIMP. So personally, that's my recommendation. Not that I've done an awful lot with it, but like I just do thumbnails for podcasts, and it's bloody good. But Gary does some pretty cool stuff with GIMP as well, and I think that it's quite intuitive. But I've also heard a lot of people get annoyed at it. But it's free and it's awesome, and it does everything that Photoshop can. So it's a good one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So if someone, well, I mean, you guys have shared a bunch of tips here, but what would be the first step? Like, I've got something I want to write for Swag now because I like what I heard here on the episode. What would be the first step? Would it be to contact Pinnacle? Would it be to read something? What do I do?
Are you going to make us plug the Discord again?
That would be the first step. No, you just go in to drive-through and you just join the community content program.
Cool.
It's super easy. You don't have to talk to anybody if you don't like talking to people. It takes like 15 minutes start to finish, and you can have your product up.
When you sign into Drive-Thru RPG, you have the option of, on your account page, there's basically an enter a community content title as an option. So you just go into your account and scroll down, and there's hey, I want to put up a community content product.
That easy, huh? Okay.
It is that easy. There's not a lot. I know this is something that if Woolcock talked about in his article, there's not as much control in community content, like in terms of you can't email all of your customers. You can't get really accurate data. Like you can basically see what you sold on what day you sold it and how much is coming to you. But aside from that, there's not as much as if you were a publisher. But you can split royalties, which is a cool thing. So if you do manage to find sucker some layout artist into working on a percentage, which is very hard to do because they don't make money that way, respect their art. But if you do, you manage to split percentages, and you can have that set up so that automatically the moment a book is sold, Drive-Thru gets their cut, Pinnacle gets their cut, and then whatever's left goes between you and a partner.
Yeah.
That's all automated.
You have a fair number of tools. I think the big thing that Richard mentioned that you don't have access to is any of the promotional stuff.
Also true, yeah.
So you can't use and Eric, I'm sure you could speak more to this, but there's
Deal of the day.
Yeah, you can't do any of that stuff. There's no deal of the day. There's no promotional points that you get from Drive-Thru. Any of that stuff is not available.
Nope.
You can participate in bundles. I think you can do sales.
Which, if you've heard us talk about the Discord, not enough times. There is no details yet, but there is a rumor going around the Discord. A bunch of us are going to put together an unofficial Savage Worlds Discord bundle.
That's a great idea.
Stay tuned. Man. It was Richard Woolcock's idea.
Oh my god! It always comes back. It always comes back to him. I'm sick of this guy, man. Right? We need to. I think what we've realised here today is that Richard Woolcock has an unfair monopoly on cool shit, and we need to kill him.
So let me look and make sure that it was Richard. It was definitely. I think it was Richard. If it wasn't Richard, it was Christian.
It might have been Don.
Look, I don't even care. We're going to kill Richard Woolcock. That's what I'm saying.
That's a really odd thing to say, Harrison, on the Richard Woolcock podcast.
It was Woolcock. It was Richard. Yeah.
Final piece of advice. Have you guys got anything else to add?
Don't talk yourself out of it.
Yes.
When I was working on a Savage Guide to Dinosaurs and I was getting feedback, I actually had another guy in the community who was like, "Hey, I see what you're doing, and we're in a couple of Discords together. I didn't want to say anything because I'm working on something dinosaur-wise. And I just wanted to ask you, why are you putting out something that's dinosaur-wise when, for example, Richard Woolcock already has something for free on his blog?" And I said, there's a couple things that make my thing different, but the biggest thing is that I wrote it. And so I'm going to put it out there. And if people decide that it's easier to go somewhere else, I'm going to let them make that decision. I'm not going to make it for them.
Very, very good point.
Yeah, makes sense. I mean, you don't talk yourself out of something that could be fun.
Do you think swag is a good stepping stone for becoming an ace, or are you guys satisfied with the status quo and just keeping doing that?
I think it could be. I don't think that's happened yet, but I think it might be a nice way to go. I mean, I know that I have gotten money that I can then use for stock art and have gained experience in layout, that if I do decide to become an ace, and that's something that I'm thinking about, that it would be useful, both financially and skill-wise.
I think the final decision is whether or not you want to run a Kickstarter. I think that's probably going to be the biggest decision. When you hit a point where you want to do something that you can't do without upfront money, and you need to do a Kickstarter, that is going to be the day that you realize you've outgrown the swag program. If you don't mind, if you don't want to do that, if your plan is to just make a product, make what it makes, and put that into your next product, and just do that, which is admirable. You're out there creating content for a game that you love, then I think you'll be fine in the swag program as long as you want. Kickstarter is really the big door between the two, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And that's not available for swag publishers, right?
No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
Yeah, as long as Shane Hensley doesn't hear about it.
Solid plan. Yeah, the swag program I think is sufficient for like one person or maybe two people, but I don't think once you start trying to pay like an editor and a layout person and artists and stuff, I don't think you can do it on the swag program.
I also think the swag program is really important to the type of community Savage Worlds is. I know I said this earlier, but the point is that community created content is like probably 90% of what I use in my games, especially like tools and things like that. I love that kind of stuff, and it's important that that's being supported. So I think it's brilliant personally, but there you go.
I agree that it's nice that there's a way to like give back to the people who give us so much in this hobby, because before you couldn't even, technically they weren't strict about it because it's Pinnacle, but technically if you put out fan created stuff and that's all you did and you had a Patreon for that, like that was a really strong gray area. There wasn't any way to really give back to the people who were
just to let you know, Dylan, we can hear you typing, so if you want to do that louder, that'd be great.
Sorry, I thought I hit the mute button. Apparently not.
Don't worry about it, man.
But it wasn't a way to give back to people who were giving so much. I mean, I know that I've never started a game without something from the community, and it's just awesome that now we can, as a fan, it's like it's awesome that I can go and throw money behind people that are doing stuff that I love and respect.
Yeah, damn straight.
Is there something that you learned by publishing through swag that you didn't know before? Maybe some that surprised you about the process?
I should review more things. That's something I learned.
I should wait for people to get back to me with feedback before I publish things.
So, Gage, that actually was kind of interesting what you said there, because you were saying you should review more things. Is that because you would like more people to review your product?
It is, yeah, and it's insane. I have a podcast, so I know that there's the disparity between the people who listen and the people who review. Again, I have over 170 sales. I have 5 or 8 people who have rated it, and 1 person who's written a review. And I went, why do they? And then I go, oh, I don't review the stuff that I love. I don't go in and drop reviews where I should. And I think it's changed me.
Send me $10. I'll review your product positively. That goes for anything. I don't even care. I'm soulless. I will review anything positively for a tenner. So send it over.
or just review Aliens versus Rednecks.
Actually, yes, that's important because that's one of the best adventures ever made, and I believe that should have more positive reviews.
We should do a crossover between that and Dino World. Aliens versus Redneck versus Dinosaurs.
Now we're talking. That would be the only thing to surpass Aliens versus Rednecks, I think.
All right, guys, let's wrap this up. So yeah, Dylan and Gage, well, thanks a lot. I learned a lot, and I hope our listeners learned just as much.
Well, thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, glad to be here.
It was great having you guys on. You're obviously very intelligent, which I hate because it makes me look dumb by comparison. And technically, of course, I was a guest on this show. So, Eric, if your next question is what would you like to plug, and thank you very much for asking it. Obviously, by 78 Hamlet Happenings on DriveThruRPG, a great OSR tool, or Aliens vs. Rednecks, the best adventure for Savage Worlds ever made. Thank you very much. And thanks for asking, Eric.
Solid
I appreciate
plug.
that.
Yeah, Dylan and Gage, you guys have been plugging the Discord server for the show, basically. And but we're going to have the links to everything you guys talked about. If you send me the link, that is, I'll put in the show notes so people can get to your products, to Affinity, to the Discord server, all that stuff. It's going to be in there.
I will also, if you don't mind, just say Gaming with Gage. I do.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, podcast that was on there. A really good show.
Yeah, Eric was on the show. It's not a Savage Worlds podcast, but it's so friggin' close to just being a Savage Worlds podcast at this point. Like you just look through the interviews and you're like, there's Shane Hensley, Eric Lamoureux, Clint Black, Preston DuBose. It's just like you just go through. It's really just a lark at this point.
Have you talked about other RPGs on there?
I have, only when there's a guest on, though. Only when there's a guest. Like I had Adam Coble on from Dungeon World, so we had to talk about Dungeon World.
Well, I mean, if you need, like, say, for example, you know, the famous writer of Aliens versus Rednecks, I'm willing to come onto the show, and thanks very much for inviting me. I appreciate that. That's good.
You think it's you guys know what it's like booking podcast guests. Don't act like I'm not going to take you up on that.
Yes. Finally, I'm somebody.
All right, guest Harrison, can you give us some contact info? We haven't heard your lovely voice doing the contact info for so long.
I do not have the document in front of me, but if you want to get in contact with us, that's the Wild Die Podcast at gmail.com. We're also on Twitter, MeWe, Facebook. Just search the Wild Die Podcast. And of course, we're part of the Nerds International Network. So if you want to come and mingle with us, search that up on MeWe and listen to other great shows on the Nerds International Network, such as the 3T RPG Podcast, one of the best podcasts ever made, and the Murder Hobo Show. Great shows.
Also, patreon.com/wilddie. Or sorry, /the Wild Die, because I have it pulled up in front of me.
But yeah, the Patreon was the main one. We forgot that. Look, if it's not for your money, then we wouldn't be able to do enough coke to keep this show going. Oh no, I shouldn't say that, should I?
Just say zero. Coke zero.
Coke zero. That's what I meant. Yeah, Diet Coke.
And for the whole summer, we've been used to Gary's sultry voice. And I'm sure he'll be nice enough to do this jingle for us. I'm just curious to see what kind of theme he's going to use for this one. So if you want to be part of that sultry jingle, you just have to be a patron of ours. So
Gary's Patreon jingles really push the PG-13 to like the limit. They're disgusting. I have to have a cold shower once I listen to them.
I know that's what I keep hearing, but people love it too. So, yeah, Gary, take us there, please.
Oh yeah. This special Patreon jingle is dedicated to our guests Dylan Brooks and Gage Verroneau. Dylan, you can summon me as an ally anytime. And Gage, you're missing a dinosaur. The spittin' purple wiener raptor, Venomous. This is a sexy Patreon jingle based on swag adventure titles. Alan Bray, An Unexpected Wedding. How about a little one-on-one session and we make it an unexpected pregnancy? Oh yeah. Bubbles, Conrad Erasmus Neubert and Corey Judd. A game of gangland swag? No sirs. How about gangbang swag? Ow! Dan Brown, Dale Cartier, and Frank Turfler. Citizens divided. Let's make them come together. Este. Gil Deschard, Louis Strad, Jan Yetma, First Responders. Help. I've fallen and need mouth to somewhere. Jan Schonheim and John Peterson. Hotel hijinks. Nothing to rewrite here. Oh yeah. Carl Kiesler, Kevin Stanley, Manuel Sams. How about a little game of morph transsexual sausage bots? Enough said. I just made that up. Not really. Michael Morrison, Mr. Stagg, and Malguano. Bugs in the system? There's no bugs in my basement. Fresh. Patrick Greenlaw and Parachalmers. Let's play Intruder Alert and a port in the storm. Sexy. Pure Mongrel, Ray Asteria, and Scott Marchand Davis. A little game of Hot Springs Havoc. Steamy. Sean Richer, Stefan Dragonspawn, and Sid the Squid. Who's got time for some Guardians of Bumbra? That's right, I said it. And Zovia RPG Maps. I found a fitting title for us to play. It's called Stalker. I'm not kidding. Uncle J Raz. I got a sexy one shot for my favorite person called the Rod of Life in my pants. Yeah. And last but not least, our newest patron, Andy Hall. I'll be your dangerous NPC, Tongue Lasher, your bugbear warlord. Yeah.
We have a new patron, Andy Hall.
Wait, no,
Thanks,
not
Andy.
We've got Andy Hall. The Andy Hall.
Yep.
Hey, Andy
Wow.
Hall.
That guy's amazing.
pretty
I can't believe he's on board. Like, shout out to that guy. He's the best. I don't know.
Wait. He joined when Harrison was taking his sabbatical.
Shut up, Paris. You've been way too loud this whole episode, and I'm fed up of it.
Actually, just for the guys, I wanted to thank them personally. I've had aspirations to put something on Sway, but I've always sort of been a bit too shy. Am I shy? I don't know. Or you're always worried about people critiquing your stuff, so I've got that fire back. So thank you very much.
Yeah, you should do it.
Do it.
It's enjoyable. I've enjoyed the experience quite a bit.
But first, make sure you're in the Savage Worlds Discord.
Yeah, and talk to Manuel and Richard and everyone.
The people you already know.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to see an explosion on Swag, really. This needs to take off because, I mean, there's just so many knowledgeable, talented people in the community, and I think Swag is a good starting point. There's been more and more aces coming on Savage Worlds, and it's growing there. Last year in October, I think it was like 12 Kickstarters for aces.
There was a lot.
That was crazy.
That's insane. So it keeps growing, and I know Gary will say, I don't have time to read all that. There's just too many.
Yeah, but he'll buy them all.
This is democracy. We need competition that, the cream rises to the top, and that's how it works.
That's true.
So yeah, thanks again. This is Eric saying, grab your sword by the balls.
And this is Harrison saying,
Paris saying,
shut up,
never
Paris, you bloody
You could be
idiot.
that
You're
right.
talking
You
over
just
me.
sit back down, Harrison.
I can't believe the attitude on you, Paris. I am going to slap you silly.
Anytime, bro. Come at me.
Look, just because you're bigger, better at fighting, and more cooler than I am, doesn't mean you can beat me in a fight.
Yeah, it does.
I think it might
Literally
do.
one of those does.
This is Paris saying, "Oh my God, Harrison's here."
And this is Harrison saying, "I'm sorry, I drank during this one. It's never going to happen again. I'm sorry."
He's never going to back that up.
Yeah, that's not going to happen.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks, guys.
The Wild Die Podcast is not affiliated with or endorsed by Pinnacle Entertainment Group or official Pinnacle licensees. Any of the products mentioned on our show or appear on our website are the property and copyright of the respected owners. All music and artwork is used with permission of Pinnacle Entertainment Group. All items are used under fair use and educational and review purposes. All other items are the intellectual property of the Wild Die Podcast.